Thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Hey, thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm good. So it's Sam Perin. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, it's Perrin.
Okay. So I found your background fascinating. You say that you started out as a hobby artist when you were younger.
Yeah. I've been drawing pretty much my whole life. Basically ever since I could pick up a pencil, I've been drawing. And
Uh-huh.
I had an art teacher in grade school who really kind of uh, encouraged me to keep drawing. And she went to my mom and she told my mom that she thought I should take art classes. So my mom started putting me through different art classes, and I just kept drawing and drawing. And yeah, I've pretty much just done it forever.
So your family was also supportive of your art as well.
Yeah, they were very supportive.
Now, it took you later in life to realize that this was a viable career. What was the moment that you realized, you know what? These people telling me that I can't do this for a living, they're wrong. Was there a moment that made you go, I can do this?
So I think maybe that moment was actually when I started playing Magic. Um,
Really? Okay, wow.
yeah, yeah, I had a friend in high school who I had like played D&D with before, and we had played a lot of other games. And one day he was like, "Hey Sam, I got into this game called Magic. You want to try it?" I was like, "Sure, I'll give it a try." And we opened some packs, and he started teaching me how to play it because he was super into it at the time. Um, and the
Around what
first
year
thing that,
was this? What year was this?
oh man, probably 2014.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe 2013. I don't know exactly when.
Yeah.
But the first thing that hit me super hard was the art. And I like really attached to it. And I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. Like, there's a lot of people doing cool art. I want to be involved in that. And I honestly was first a Magic player and like into gaming before I was like really interested in doing art professionally in that industry. But once I got around to college and was like thinking about different careers and where I wanted to go with life, it kind of hit me like there's people that do magic art and art for D&D and other games in the industry. And so pretty much ever since I like realized that, I went all in and just basically did everything I could to try to make it.
And the thing I found interesting about you too is that you are very open about the fact that artists need to be business minded when going into something like fantasy art. And I've noticed in school in general, they don't teach a lot of business practicality in any subject. Like they'll teach you the brass tacks of, say, like writing, but then they don't tell you how to get an agent or how to submit to a publishing house. And I wonder how how much of that did you learn in school? Was there a lot of that, or was that something that you just figured out on your own?
I would say I picked up a little bit in school. In college, we had some like business mentorship type experiences that you could go to and learn about different working artists and practicing artists and how they ran their business. But also, I honestly think I've been interested in business like before even like being super into doing art as a career. I mean, I always loved art, but
Hmm.
everyone's like, when you're a kid, they're like, don't do art, you can't do it, it's not a safe career.
Which is such a
Um,
which is like sidebar. People who say that really need to just shut up because it's telling anybody that they can't do anything is such a nasty opinion, and I almost feel like it's people saying I can't do that, so I'm going to tell you you can't do that because it's my inner feelings. I don't know. Don't you think it's such a rotten thing to say to a young person?
yeah,
Yeah, tell somebody, you can tell somebody like who's not, maybe, they're not good, right? And you can be like, well, maybe art is, you can consider it, but perhaps you'd be better off. But like just to say to someone you can't do it, I often think that's somebody who sees a brilliant artist in like growing, and they want to cut it off because you got to knock them off the ladder because that's going to be competition in a few years. That's just my own opinion. But so my curiosity is, what was your first paying gig as an artist? Your first like real substantial job that you landed?
Mm. Um, do you want me to finish talking about the business stuff?
Well, the problem was is you cut off and I wasn't sure where you froze like for a second and I
Oh, I'm
thought
so
you had
sorry.
said it. So we can go back to that because I'm sorry if it seemed like I cut you off, it's because I was trying to cover my bases and make editing less possible. But please go back to that. We can fix
Oh
it in
no, no
post.
worries.
We can
I think
totally
my
fix it
Wi-Fi
in
is a little
post. So
choppy.
so go back to what you were saying then, please.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I was really into business. And my family is also like pretty business. Like they taught me about like business and stuff growing up a little bit. So I would say like I have a big focus on business as an artist. I think that being an artist, whether it's fine art, illustration, even graphic design, music, anything really, I think you're an artist and a business person. And I think oftentimes to be successful in those types of fields, like you kind of have to have both hats. And it really helps to be able to kind of put that business hat on, set up the CRMs, do the client outreach, and just like kind of grind the business side of it too.
That's a really good advice, and like there's very few artists that I can think of that really talk openly about that. Tori Amos is one that I've seen talk about it, like where you got to be like brass tacks about it. You got to know what you're signing, you got to know what's coming up, and you got to know that these contracts, a lot of these people are out to take advantage of people who may not know any better or are excited to get their first job. So I think that's really uh, a really admirable thing you do. But now let's get to the meat and potatoes. Now the real admirable stuff is the artwork itself. So
Oh,
I
thank you.
now I always ask this question, but I want to know tell me about the time you found out you were going to be working for Wizards. Tell me that the experience. How did it happen? What was going on? Like, did you get an email? Did you get a call? What was
Oh
that?
man. Yeah, that was a really crazy time for me. So my first industry gig was actually for a company called Cobalt Press.
Uh-huh.
They do
Yeah, I've
like
heard of them, I think. Yeah.
yeah, they do like different D&D expansions and stuff. It's pretty cool. And then from there, I started working in the TTRPG industry, doing a lot of different work for various like publishers like Paizo, Cobalt Press, Nord Games.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how I got my foot in the industry was all of these TTRPG publishers, a lot of like Pathfinder, Starfinder, D&D type stuff. Um, and then I Magic was always like one of my goals because I grew up playing the game and I just really, really love it. I love the universe, the community, the world, and the art has always been just so inspiring to me.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like it's the apex of fantasy art. I mean, I think if you get into Magic, it's it's no longer up for dispute that you are a good artist. It's
I feel
it's
very such a caliber. Um, I definitely don't take it for granted. But yeah, I started submitting my work. And then there was one painting I did pretty early on in my career that I actually did for a college class because I
what was
started
the name of it?
working. It was Gone Shopping. It's like the lizards in the meat market.
I love that piece.
Thanks.
Like it's and we'll talk about your the way you use your style in a bit, but go on with what you were saying.
Yeah. So I started submitting my work to Wizards and the art directors there. And this is back when Cynthia Shepard was working there.
Icon.
Um, and I got an email from her, and she was like, I like your work. And she specifically mentioned that piece. And she was like, this piece is really cool. I don't remember exactly what she said. I'm kind of paraphrasing,
Hmm.
but basically she was like, I'm gonna send your work to the other art directors and see about getting you in. But sadly, that was around the time she was about to leave Wizards.
Yeah, yeah.
So I got in touch like at exactly the wrong time. And I actually ended up not working for them at that point. And
Oh
it took
God.
like maybe, I don't remember exactly how long it was. It might have been like 5 to 8 months to finally like get in touch with someone else who was there and get the ball rolling. And then Karen Yanner was my first art director.
Wow.
And we did our first commission together, and then I've been doing it pretty consistently ever since.
I mean, that's amazing. So, also one of the things that really does stand out about your work is, well, there's a couple of things. One is your ability, and I know that you've done it for some games, but I love how you are able to juxtapose fantasy with like real life. Like I've never really seen that before, like dragons in Midtown or lizards shopping for meat at a store, or I mean, excuse me for it. I believe it's called A Starry Place is the piece that you did that it just incorporates these very earthly elements with this fantasy. And I'm wondering, like, aside from, maybe getting it from, say like a prompt, was that something that you also, had in you as far as your artistic inclinations,
Yeah, so Story Place is actually the name of my personal series that I'm working on right now.
which is
Um,
called for the audience?
A Starry Place.
Okay. I
Yeah.
didn't know. Like,
Oh yeah, Starfall.
I
Um,
loved, it's so grounded yet so fantastic. And the Comet Dragon is also has that element, but even Ashes of Creation, like this, very like, you know, Renaissance-y looking surroundings with all these brightly colored modern fireworks. There's something about the juxtaposition that you don't really see in anything
mm,
that I've noticed of. So I'm curious about that. Like, how did you how did you figure out that style?
mm. So I think in terms of like the real life elements and modern elements and the fantasy work, that's just an aesthetic that I really like a lot. I feel like I honestly don't see it as often as a lot of others like aesthetics. So like Studio Ghibli is a huge inspiration for me.
Oh, wow,
I
yeah.
love Miyazaki's work. I think it's Kazuo Oka. He's one of the background artists. He's one of my favorite painters.
Yeah, it's pretty
And
amazing team they got.
yeah, it's just insane the caliber of work they do.
Yeah.
But I love this idea of like incidental storytelling. A lot of Studio Ghibli movies I feel like are slice of life, but they weave these narratives and stories that feel so real and so everyday, but yet they're also so fantastical.
Yeah.
And I love that feeling. So I try to put a lot of that in a lot of the work I do, especially my personal work. It just is a very nostalgic and like safe feeling that it brings to me. And I want other people who look at my work, especially my personal work, to also feel that same nostalgia and safety.
Yeah, there is an element to it. Almost like I wonder like down the line, I could definitely see you doing children's book illustrations because there is a comfort to some of the pieces you're doing. Obviously, the casualties of war might not be one of them, but um
Yeah.
but but the your personal work, yeah, it has this element. I mean, Swan Moon. I mean, Disney should be kicking your door down asking to use that. I mean, frankly, if they could put out, a movie with that kind of stuff in it instead of, like say yet another remake, which I mean, a sidebar, Disney, go back to animation, right? There's people like you that could come and do a better job and we don't need CGI creatures. We need real artists working on stuff. So another thing I noticed is you have such a great use of using geometry and circles and stuff in your pieces. How is that deliberate or is that just something that you go? Because I noticed like in I don't think it was titled, but it's a mage shooting circles into the sky. And uh let's see, quick look. He's got like a big staff with feathers on it, and he's like shooting this like magic pattern into the night sky.
Oh yeah, yeah, The Traveler.
Yes, and then even still say in the I think it's the Starry Night one with the deer and the train, and yet
Mm,
there's this you know, half moon kind of crescent thing. Where do those ideas come from? Because again, you don't really see that, you don't see like magic being depicted as angular, which I think is very unique. It's usually very wispy, and it's very, you know, like poof. But
mm.
your stuff is it's it's tangible, and I think it's really brave. So where does that come from? Do you have any inspirations of where you got that from, or is that again from your subconscious?
It's kind of a little bit of my subconscious. When I do illustrations, I honestly don't really like think about it super hard when I make thumbnails. I kind of just get these visions in my head and I just put them out on the paper. Um,
Hmm.
I don't really know where the ideas come from 100%, but they just kind of like come out. Um, so it's a little bit of that, especially for like those personal ones that you're talking about, like the Dawnstar Deer and the Traveler. But also, I'm really interested in like making art that could like fill a space or be like on someone's wall, especially for my personal work.
Smart.
So a lot of my focus is like making symbolic and iconic imagery. So incorporating like these graphic design elements like circles and semicircles and hard shapes is just an aesthetic that I personally really like for wall art. So I've been trying to incorporate it more into my work in general, to kind of bring about, I guess, just what I my own aesthetic tastes, what I like in the work that I'm making.
So what was your first actual MTG card that you put out? What was the very first one that at least was released to the general public?
I think the first one was Hold for Questioning, if I
Okay.
remember correctly.
And
Um,
and then Assemble the Team was the one that I first noticed. I thought, all right, this is pretty cool. And it also, for a newer artist to come out and be given a chance to do these iconic silhouettes, which again, I think with your Ashes of Creation piece, I think you proven out the gate that like you can do group shots. Is that something that you're like actively pursuing, getting in there and doing that like IP kind of work? Maybe you are doing it now and you just can't discuss it, but is that something that you would be, I guess, aspiring to do in the game, or do you prefer to keep it where you get to do sort of your symbolic stuff?
I'm pretty open to anything, honestly. I freelance full time, and I just really like collaborating on projects. So I kind of just take whatever comes my way. And like the art directors at Magic and a lot of other companies like really know their artists well. So I think they do a good job at choosing pieces that fit like our interests and our abilities and skill set. So I wouldn't necessarily say there's like anything like I'm specifically pursuing with work in the
But
past.
like but like not even like, I don't know, you see a character and you go, I'd love to have a crack at that character, or you know what I mean? Like just, or a scene or a plane, and nothing like that. I mean, I'd ask this to everybody. So if don't be shy. I mean, you gotta have one. I mean, I could give you my ideas of what I think you'd be good for, but I mean, Ikoria. If you go back to Ikoria, I mean, you'd nail that. That'd be my pick. But so nothing at all. You're just able to meld in with whatever.
Yeah, I just like making the art and exploring lots of different styles and aesthetics and like world spaces. I think something that I've never had the chance to do that I've always wanted to do was paint an angel. I remember when I first started playing Magic, some of the cards that like stood out to me the most were the angels with the really dramatic
Yeah,
light and the wispy wings and like the subsurface scattering going through them.
yeah.
Um, I always thought the angel art was really cool. But honestly, not anything super specific. Um, I like to flex my art muscles and just kind of do lots of different things. I'm pretty good at like getting into ideas, and like being interested in a lot of different stuff. So honestly, like, yeah, I'm kind of happy just doing whatever.
Do you craft interior stories in your head about what the pieces are as far as like a narrative, like maybe with your personal stuff? Do you have like a little story in your mind about what you're going to paint? Because a lot of your paintings, they have this this quality of be like almost like it's a still shot from a movie. Uh,
Mm,
is that something that you do? Because I know a lot of artists that are what I call closeted writers. They're like, I don't want to openly, write in public because I'm afraid of what people think. But they're always really great at it. So I'm wondering, are you one of those types?
yeah, I'd say that sometimes I do come up with stories or like little mini like ideas about what's going on for the scene in my head. I also like world building a lot. So some of my personal work has been part of like world building initiatives that I've done in the past. But it also kind of just depends. A lot of the work uh, really is very intuitive with like how I come up with the ideas. Sometimes I honestly don't even really know where it comes from. It just kind of happens. Um, but yeah, I do like try to incorporate narrative elements into the work. I do really enjoy storytelling, so when I make an illustration, I try to also tell a story with it in some way.
So I am curious. I love to know what I call our artistic bloodlines, where it's the artists that came before you that have truly inspired you and uh, have become part of your artistic DNA. So who are some of the people that you looked up to, developing your style that really you know helped make you who you are today?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say one of my big influences is Rembrandt. I really, really love Rembrandt's work. I'm just enamored by the self-portraits that he's done.
I know,
I've
nuts,
gotten to
right?
see a number of them in real life, and
Wow,
like
that's awesome.
it's just blows me away every time to see his work. The way that he handles light and detail and like the nuance in his mark making. It just really captures not just the subject matter, but it captures it in a way that's also very emotional. Um, and yeah, he's definitely been a huge inspiration. And then also like the Sargent line, like going back to Franz Hals, Velasquez, Sargent, a lot of these like more brushy, kind of quick, almost poetic sort of impressionist style painting.
Hmm.
Um, that's also been a big inspiration for me. And then a little more recently, like Norman Rockwell.
It's so underrated. He's so underrated how like truly amazing he is, because I think a lot of people write him off as this like, you know, Americana, it's in the past, which, first of all, come on, people. And second of all, but really his skill is, you're not the first person to mention him. I mean, he is he's a master, you know.
Yeah, his work, like the way that he like flattens out compositional spaces and tells stories, but also makes an image that like stands on its own as like an abstract piece of art.
Hmm.
Like that's really, really fascinating to me. Um, and I think it's really cool how he's able to like tell these stories while also making the images like be very iconic.
Yeah,
Um, and
exactly.
it's just like such a strong compositional language. And yeah, I've seen one of his works in real life too, and that was really, really cool. He's actually like pretty painterly, which
Yeah, oh,
sometimes
very, yeah.
yeah, which I didn't expect because I'd never seen it before. And then when I saw it and looked up close at it, I was like, wow, there's like a lot of really cool mark making in this too. Um, so that's also something that's inspired me a lot. And then a huge inspiration, probably honestly, I'd say this is my favorite painter, Peter Mork Monstead. Um, I think he was one of the Danish landscape realists.
Wow. Oh, you did so many cool things.
How, do you know him?
I mean, I've seen some, but here's the thing. I'm tangentially aware because again, there have been a few artists that I've interviewed where that name's popped up, and then I'm like, I need to research him, but because I'm a schmendrick, I don't. But I have heard a lot of people that I find very admirable speak of him, so I need to self-educate. But educate the audience about why he is awesome to you because uh, I don't get tired of hearing about uh, people talking about the artists they love.
Oh, I just love the way that he handles light and the way that he renders form. There's something about his like detail work and the way that he goes about like defining shape and light that just really gets me. It's very tight. I like tight painting a lot. It's kind of weird because I love brushy stuff, but I also love really tight stuff. I like it when it's like tight but brushy at the same time. So that's why I like Rembrandt.
I
Um,
see. Okay.
and Mondstadt kind of does that, but with like big landscapes. And his like
Interesting.
value accuracy and his like understanding of light is just like next level to me. Like when I look at his work, there's one piece that he did. I don't know what it's called, but it's like a horse-drawn carriage in a snowy forest with a
We'll
sunset.
find it for the video. We'll put it up. I'll do a gaggle search.
That painting is just like beyond anything. And it's crazy to me that it was done in oils and done in like, I don't know, the like turn of the century. Like it's like, man, that's just remarkable painting. Um,
Yeah, and you wonder, did they know that what they were doing were going to be it's going to be something that was going to be viewed, for forever and ever, that these pieces were going to be I mean, world famous. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Like, and that's a crazy thing to be after being dead for any amount. I mean, to be world famous and not alive, that's 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 gotta. I mean, that's gotta be something else. But I wonder if they knew how good they were, because a lot of artists that I talk to, they don't seem to. The sad thing is they don't get to view their pieces the way the audience gets to. Like an artist painting does not get to experience the submersion of a piece. And I feel bad for a lot of you artists because I'm like, man, you guys don't get to enjoy it the way we do. Which, I mean, you guys also get to be in the creative part, but I mean, it's a bummer because you guys don't get to, you know, be the audience for your own work. So I'm very sorry about that for you guys. Um but it's the same with, like, for me, because I'm a layman with art, but like there are things that I see like in your paintings that I find to be, well, okay. So like Casualties of War, I know it's dark and it's fantastic, and it's totally like something that like I would hang in like over a fireplace. Uh I'm serious. Um and I can see the hint of Norman Rockwell in it. It's like Norman Rockwell meets the apocalypse, and I mean, I love it. So, what was the prompt for that? Was it just like, did how much of the prompt was given to you, and then what were the stylistic choices that you made as far as how that piece went?
I'm not sure I can speak to the prompt, but I can definitely speak to like my artistic influences with making it.
Okay,
Um,
yes, please.
that piece was actually an homage to Norman Rockwell.
Yes, I'm not a dummy.
um, I, I I've seen other artists in the past, like and magic artists do homages to artists that they really admire.
Oh yeah, you
I
gotta.
kind of always wanted to do that, so there's a Norman Rockwell piece. I'm blanking on the name right now, but it's like people sitting at a diner, and there's like a dude who's like the diner worker dude.
Yeah, yeah.
So that piece is an homage to that painting. I was a little worried when I made it as an homage because it's kind of like a really dark twist on it. But I was like, I don't know when I'm ever going to do something in this time era again. And I don't know when I'm ever going to get a brief that actually fits an homage like this again. So I was just like, I'm going to go for it.
It worked. It worked 100%. I mean, I loved it because let's face it, there if you're gonna do a good homage, it needs to be, it needs to have that hint of the artist that you're, honoring. But you can't do, because it can go real wrong, because some people take homages and it just goes straight into imitation. You need to have the unique twist, and like he's wholesome all America. Well, this is wholesome all America, except, you know. a bomb went off.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's just it is the perfect amount of taking his work and turning it inside out, but without you but you're still showing respect and you're still conveying that sweetness. It's just they died during a very lovely moment. Let's say they were, like, hey, they were happy until the very end. And I love the pink too. I just love the fact that they're like the pink in the pink fridge and the pink bow and the pink vest. It's just it's that little brightness in there, like
Yeah. It's been a long time since I painted that. So I don't remember exactly what was going through my head, but I think I probably did that because I wanted to add like visual contrast.
yeah.
I was like, there needs to be some sort of like narrative element in here that kind of brings some sort of contrast from the like darkness and dinginess that brings a little bit of a different mood here.
Yeah.
I think it makes it a little more sad, honestly, because
Really? I
it's
mean,
really
well,
bright.
yeah, it is. Well, because the implication is are probably high schoolers and that is their team colors and maybe they were at a game prior to, you know what I'm saying? And it has like a
Mm,
50s kind of quality to it, getting a milkshake and this that poor the poor dead worker is just like flopped in the middle. But it's I mean honestly, it's a killer piece. It's well done, well done. Another one I am obsessed with is this, I think it's Staff of Titania. Did I get that correctly? Or is it Chief of Titania? The dryad with the stick in the
yeah, the stuff.
woods. That one is you could look at that one for days. There's so much hidden stuff in it. Uh, and the fact that she's able to meld with the tree yet be her own independent thing, and then you have these spirits behind her. I I haven't seen usually when you see the dryads they're very front and center, they're very vogue, you know what I'm saying? Which
Mm,
is fine. But this one almost it feels like this one is painted in a way that she is the landscape and not something that is prominently featured. Was that was that intentional or was that just how it turned out? Because it really melds in so well, and yet when you look into it, you're like, wow, I see her coming out of this earth. So,
that was intentional. It's because the staff is like the card mechanic, so the
hmm
staff is really important visually for the painting. So I wanted the staff to be very focal and center. And then Titania is kind of a supporting element in the composition. And all of the other stuff are also like supporting tertiary elements. So yeah, that was an intentional choice to make it feel that way.
I mean, it's groovy stuff. I mean, cannot get around
Oh,
it. So,
thank you.
and I just gotta say, I mean, the plague mirror. I mean, badass. I mean, just super badass. Uh, I really love how you have the rock in the background that's sort of imitating the shape of the mirror, and uh it it gives very to me this is probably one of the darker ones because this is the desolation that is Phyrexia. And
Mm.
but you made him look sinister as hell, like I don't know, what kind of animal did you use as like a basis for that? Because there's like a beaky kind of thing going on. Was there a particular like animal that you thought I'm going to use elements of it? Because it's organic, but it's a nightmare on my street. So how did that come about?
Actually, I didn't use any animals. I mostly just looked at other magic mirrors. And yeah, used like human-ish poses. Yeah, there weren't any animal inspirations, I don't think, for that
Hmm.
one.
Well, then I will. I mean, hey, it works. And speaking of animals, your wayward, the wayward, oh shoot, the wayward dog. It's the dog. It's the dog in the armor. I'm a sucker for
Oh yeah.
like that right there.
Oh,
I already
Faithful
know.
Watchdog.
Yes, I know
Yeah.
people who are like, I'm putting it in my deck. I don't care. Like, it's so adorable. And did that dog come from your head, or is that someone's dog that you got to pose for you?
No, it came from my head.
What, ma'am, you got so many, like, that's a shame that like you can't like bring that puppy out of your head because it's just so so Sword in the Stone meets, like Clifford. I don't know, like, and the way you chose to do the clouds that were opening up where his head is, and it's very emotional, and it it's again, it's a testament to your work. So
Oh,
like
thank you.
with with how you're evolving with your style now, are there, if like you had to pick, like, say, a dream assignment, maybe not necessarily with an IP company, but if there was something like maybe a movie poster or anything along those lines where you could try out new things, what kind of things would you be curious to try out? Like, what other avenues of artistic expression do you see yourself, stepping into? Because I think you really could.
Mm. Um, I think, uh, man, that's a really hard question. Um,
Sorry.
no, it's okay. Because honestly, like, I kind of explore a lot of the stuff that like I want to explore with my personal work anyways.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Um, so that is a really hard question, actually.
Well, then tell us about what the personal work, what that is doing for you as far as what you're trying to convey, or is it too early to talk about it?
Oh no, I can talk about that.
Okay, yeah, then give us that explanation because it's interesting what you're doing.
Mm, I think there's just a lot of aesthetic spaces that are like meaningful to me and very nostalgic that I am interested in exploring, but aren't really in a lot of different IPs. And I feel like I don't have the opportunity a lot to like make that kind of stuff. So I decided to like put it in my personal work. Um, and I think like a big theme of it is kind of like what you said, like combining real life stuff with magical,
Right.
um, and kind of seeing like the whimsy and the inspiration through real life, through a lens of reality and modern day. Um, and also like just like these glowy starry spaces. I really like stars a lot. Starscapes
Yeah.
are really really awesome. One time or a couple times, I've been out to some places where it's like very very dark. The sky is very very dark. No light pollution, and like the stars in those places are just like phenomenal. And
Hmm.
I don't know. I like stars a lot.
I
That's
mean,
not a very deep answer for some of it, but
hey, look, I mean, I don't think there are a lot of people who are like who've seen stars and went, it's boring, you know? Yeah, because like, have you ever noticed people around a fire? Everybody turns into a cave person when they're watching a fire. They're just like, because it's enchanting, and I mean, a
hmm
sky full of stars. If you're not enchanted by that, well, go see a therapist because there's a problem. Beautiful sunset, that kind of stuff. I mean, how can you not be transfixed?
yeah,
Um, and I guess it also probably is your way of self-educating yourself as an artist, right? Because the longer you stare at these natural, phenomenons, they become part of your arsenal, and then you're able to access them from your memory.
yeah. Through the personal work, I've learned so much like that has been applicable to like other work that I do, like freelancing contracts and stuff. The personal work is also kind of like training for me a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, like I do them and I study and I learn, and then I can apply those lessons and those insights to other work that I do. And it kind of just all builds together. And also vice versa. Sometimes I do a contract and I learn something really valuable from it that I can then take over to my other work too.
What would you say your most difficult assignment or difficult, like, piece was where you were challenged the most with what you were given? And because you're given a lot of different stuff. Was there a particular piece that you really had to work to get it right, or do they all just come out easy breezy from you?
Um, Man, that's a hard one too. I feel like I paint like really systemically. I'm very, very technical with the way
Mhm.
that I paint. I'm super into like art theory and technique. Um, so I kind of have like my own processes and ways about going
Gotcha.
through things. Um, but I think the most challenging one was a piece that I did for Ashes of Creation. It's the one with the elf dude in the newsroom.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
And that piece was particularly challenging because of how detailed it is.
I see. Okay.
Um, I think, if I remember correctly, I spent a really, really long time on that one.
Right, right.
But yeah, the level of detail in that one and pushing it to that level of detail was very, very challenging for me. Because typically I don't work like that. Typically I kind of do like a medium level of detail.
Hmm.
So yeah, just like sticking through and pushing that far was kind of mind bending.
My guess would have been Mystic Forge only because it seemed so different and so like reality based from what you were doing. Not, and obviously you can do reality, but it's so different from, I mean, yeah, it's in a fantasy game, but like it's it's not a fantasy painting in a sense that it really I figured that one would be really difficult with all the angles and the lighting, but well, how was that one for you?
That one actually came out pretty quick. Um,
Wow, yeah, there you go.
Actually, both of the Fallout pieces came out really quick. I remember doing them, and I did them in like kind of work sprint session over a couple days.
Hmm.
And both of those pieces, like I was actually really surprised how fast I did them. I think it's because I really like Bethesda games, so I was really feeling inspired to
Right.
work on them. Um, but yeah, that one, Mystic Forge also, my dad is into like woodworking and like home improvement stuff. So
Ah,
he had a workbench growing up, and I really like emotionally connected with the idea of painting this workbench in this dimly lit garage. Um, it was very, very nostalgic for me. Um,
wow.
he obviously he didn't make stuff like that, but
Well, yeah, I
just the
mean, he
concept, like
didn't.
the
I
abstract
mean,
concept.
I'm surprised. I mean, he's leaving money on the table if he's doing that, right?
um, but yeah, no, actually the because you mentioned like the angles and stuff.
Hmm.
The first thing that I ever really studied in art was perspective. Um, when my mom put me in art classes, it was with a local artist that was in town, and she was really into like Renaissance art.
Hmm.
And she really instilled in me, like pretty early, like more technical, constructive, perspective-based process. Um, so perspective is actually, I think, the art fundamental that I have, like that I feel the strongest in.
Okay.
Um, so a lot of times, like environments and buildings, like those are pretty easy for me. I feel like organic shapes are sometimes the thing that is more difficult for me.
Interesting. Interesting. And yet the the that dog looks organic as all get out. I mean, but I understand what you're saying. But then you do really cool stuff like Gilded Scuttler. Like that card is just like that's just amazing. Like uh that's one of my favorite crabs, and trust me, I've had a lot of crabs in my life. So but the the angle and the just I mean the action and just nailing the blue of the Vidalkins and yet matching the beads on the crabs. I mean, uh that's a badass crab. I just
Thank you.
I have to tell you. I feel like it's always to me, I'm like that like that art deserves to be on a mythic. It's too good, And I just that's my personal opinion. But and I really do truly believe that you are on the rise with Magic because I think the amount of diversity that you're capable of producing is really it's really good for the game, and we need people to be able to, wear all those hats. And so I do think you're going to be I think you are one of the rising stars of Magic. Um
Oh,
one more question. Marceline, the Vampire Queen, that one is out of nowhere awesome. I love Adventure Time. That did you just figure I'm gonna do this amazing Marceline, like the real teenage angst of it?
that was actually a piece I did in college. I think it might have been part of my college studies as like a practice piece.
Ah,
Um, but yeah,
wow.
I love Adventure Time.
Oh
I
my
love
God,
Adventure Time
yeah.
so much. It's such a great show.
Did you
It
see
hits
the
all
new
the right
one?
spots.
The one they put out, they were I think it's Fiona and Cake.
Yeah, I have. Yeah,
Also so amazing. Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Adventure Time is so great.
oh, it
So
is.
I wanted to make a piece that paid homage to Adventure Time at the time. So that came out. But I don't really work in that style because I mostly do like realism, semi-realism. So I was like, what if I take a character and make them look uh, different style, realistic, and see
Right.
what I can do.
I mean, it's awesome. I mean, I'm shocked that more people haven't like done that with Adventure Time. I think a lot of people sort of want to just see the characters as the little like smiley faced creatures that they are, which is, lovable, but I always love a good subversion where you see, you know, like what a cartoon would look like in real life. And she's cool. She got that teenage angst. I mean, I was her growing up, you know what I'm saying? Like I didn't play guitar, it was piano in the bedroom, but there was a lot of just ugh growing up. So uh I applaud you for that one. And you should definitely do more of the stuff like that. Those that kind of stuff. Like I would love to see you do like let me think. I don't know, Aqua Teen Hunger Force or the Oblongs. I don't know, just like really weird like cartoons. They need people like you to give them their flowers. Um, are there any let's say like famous IPs that you would love to work on that you
Mm,
if you were given the option to like just something that you would just love to be part of.
um, I did one time, a long time ago, a card for a Lord of the Rings card game.
The Squeaky Mouse?
Yeah,
Oh, that was adorable, by the way.
and I always thought it'd be fun to do more Lord of the Rings stuff. Um, Also Skyrim. I love Skyrim. I played so much Skyrim growing up that I was obsessed with that game. Um, so I don't know if I ever got the chance to do a Skyrim piece, I'd probably like lose it. I'd be like, oh wow, this is amazing. Um, and then hmm, those are probably the two main ones that I'd be like really, really excited about.
Well, I obviously Skyrim's listening to this, so if you are listening, Skyrim, come on, get with it, get with it. I mean, what more proof do you need? Uh, get on the ball. Skyrim CEOs. Uh, I'm sure that's what their names are, their given names. Um, Before I let you go, I like to ask this question. If you had to have a artist, you can pick two artists, one living and one dead for a dinner party at your house. Who would you invite?
Oh man. Um, I probably invite John Singer Sargent. Because I feel like it's hard to find information about his thought process,
Hmm.
and I've always wanted to like know more. Um, I feel like sometimes I try to read his paintings and figure out like what he was thinking when he made these brush strokes and made these like decisions. Like how was he thinking about light? How was he thinking about modeling form? Why did he make these choices? And I think it'd be really interesting to talk to him and like learn more about his process because I feel his work is it's similar to some work, but it's also pretty unique in a lot of regards. And his approach seems to really come from a unique perspective of observation. So that would be really interesting. And also maybe like Craig Mullins. Also just because I know that he's a very technical, like almost theoretical in his approach to painting. And that really is something that I'm like super interested in. And it'd be really interesting to have a conversation with him about like mark making and thinking about light and form and compositional techniques and all of that sort of stuff.
It really is very it's very impressive how you are so learned in these things. You're throwing a lot of words at me that are new to me, but I'm like, wow, this is a technically skilled mofo that I'm talking to. Which is, I mean, and I know that there's different types. I mean, artists obviously mature and become great in whatever way they happen to do it, but it's interesting to hear it talked about in an academic way
Mm,
because uh you know, I think there's a prevalent sort of thought, at least in the arts, that a lot of people like say, well, you can't teach someone to be, good at something, but it would seem like if you devote yourself and you really do pay attention to the things that like you do, I mean, maybe you have a natural inclination for it, your thirst for knowledge is you know honed in on that. But I mean, I could even see if I could see you teaching if you were not, like if you were not, currently working on art, obviously. But I would see you being an excellent teacher because the stuff that you're saying, I feel like a lot of young artists could benefit from.
yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I I think one of the reasons why I'm so like academic about it is because when I was studying, well, for me, when I like learn about a subject, I kind of have to like understand it from the ground up to be able to like participate in the subject.
Right.
So like learning the foundational stuff and then getting really deep into it has helped me a lot to be able to like make the work that I make. It's one of the reasons I think why my like work is so diverse and what I can do because I kind of work in like a very from the basics framework. Like I have a core
Like,
framework that I apply to everything.
yeah, you reverse engineer
Hmm.
which I mean, which is a really valid way. I mean, I know as a musician, that's how I often do it. And as a writer, you have to. I mean, sometimes you have to because you're like you need to study what was done because when you read it and you're blown out by it, that's the initial amazement. But then once you have some time to metacognate, then you're like, what did this person do to get that final effect that gave me that wow?
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I totally understand that.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting for me because like my ideas are very intuitive, but like the way that I actually go about actualizing those ideas is very systemic. So
Hmm.
it's kind of like this dichotomy between intuition and emotion and like extreme logic. Um, and one of my mentors in college, Caleb Weintraub, he actually very similar with like painting theory and painting thought processes. And he really instilled very deeply in me like this critical thought of art, critical thought of painting, and teaching painting not just as a practice, but as like a critical thought exercise where you're being critical about your mark making, your strokes, the way you're analyzing light, composition, form, and subject matter too, and how that impacts the viewer from an emotional perspective, from an observational perspective, and a cultural perspective. Um, and yeah, I'm like super interested in that kind of stuff. I like to break apart how humans observe and perceive things, which is very nebulous because like everyone observes and perceives things differently.
Yeah,
But
but also there is something to be said about there is there is an order to things uh with how we process and grow. And I I mean, yeah, everybody does everything different, but there is there's a method to the madness that can be applied to the arts or to any sort of education where but I think it takes a really good teacher and a person who can actually practice what they teach to translate it to somebody who is just a blank slate, you know?
Mm.
So that is definitely something that you have a unique talent of doing because
Oh, well, thank you.
it's sort of like translating different like one language to another, and some people are fluent, and so the kind of process that you go through where you change the words and you have to access a different part of your brain. I feel like that's what you do, where you're shifting the what's it like, you're code switching it, like from like creative to technical to, and it works. So I
Mm.
find that fascinating. Yeah, you definitely got a book in you, man. You gotta
I've
you
actually wanted to. I do want to make an art theory book eventually.
oh, I
Um,
feel like you would be able to sell that, and no time flat. And here's the best part. You already got the cover artist.
yeah, I guess so.
I mean, you got to hire yourself, right? I mean, come on. You're the best for the job. So before I let you go, tell everybody where like if there's anything that's coming up, are there any things coming up that you cannot discuss, say like NDA, but things that you're excited about happening? Are there things on the horizon that are exciting for you, but we'll leave it as that? Would we got future things cooking?
Yeah, I'm working on a lot of freelance gigs right now, and a lot of that stuff I'm super excited about.
Hmm.
It'll come out at some point in the future, undisclosed, unknown. But
Yeah, it's stuff.
yeah, it's stuff. It's exciting stuff.
Exciting
Um,
stuff. Yes.
and then also my personal work. I started a Patreon to like help support the development of that, and also going to start showing at various conventions around the country and
All
trying
right.
to sell like personal work as like wall art prints and stuff. So that's another exciting thing coming up as well.
Nice.
So if you're at a Comic Con, might run into you.
Awesome. And the your personal project, are you looking to put it into some sort of, is it going to be a book, or is it going to be like, how is that going to be uh uh the finished product, or is it just going to be independent pieces that have connected themes? How is that? What's the final product for that?
It might be a book eventually. Right now, though, I'm just focused on making the body of work. And
Right.
then once I make the body of work and it hopefully starts gaining traction in various spaces, then I want to potentially explore doing bigger things with it, like extended universe, making a book, making a story. I have a lot of different ideas for that. But first, I want to make the body of work and make it like sustainable as a business and
Yeah, that
also as
makes
like an
sense.
art practice.
Hmm.
So that's my focus first. So I'm focusing mostly on like collectible art cards and wall prints, that sort of stuff.
I mean, hey, that's some good stuff right there. I mean, it's smart and it's artistic. It's smartistic. Is that a word?
Smartistic. I like
That's
that.
not a word, but why not? Well, thank you so much again for taking the time out of your schedule to do this. It's been great talking to you. And everybody, I will put all the links in the notes where people can find your information. And I look forward to seeing your work in the future. I know that I will be just as impressed. And uh, you know, remember a children's book and a book on art, art theory. I'm just saying, do it. You do it. And Skyrim, listen again. Come on.
Well, thank
That's
you so
th
much. This has been a lot of fun.
I'm glad it has been. I mean, I love talking to you, artists, and I because each one of you has such a unique story to tell, and I feel like I learn more about myself by talking to you. So it's been a pleasure.
I actually had a question for you before we close out.
Oh, I'm
Um,
sorry, not taking questions. I'm just kidding. Go on. Yeah, no,
um,
ask me away. Ask away.
I watched a number of your interviews, but like leading up to this, because the same thing. It's really interesting to hear other artists' stories and perspectives. You learn a lot about art making in the world. Um, I was wondering, why do you do this? Like, what?
Why?
Yeah.
Because When I got into Magic in 2019, I was in the game store, and the art was for me. Like that was the thing. The artwork is what made me interested in staying in the game. Math is very difficult for me, and Magic did help with my math abilities because there's color association. I have dyscalculia, so basically my understanding of math is around like a second grader. It's been a real rough thing, but I've loved the artwork. And I went to the front and I said, "Where am I? Where's like what's a good documentary about these?" You know, the artwork of this thing because I'm thinking it's like, you know, this huge game. There's got to be a movie about it. And they're like, "Well, there really isn't." And I'm like, "Well, what about an art book? Do you guys have an art book here?" So I don't really have one. And I was like, "Well, that's got to change." And so I just figured, hey, you know, if nobody else is doing it, I'll do it because I do journalism for work, and it just seems like it's a ridiculous thing that Magic does not have does not focus on the fact that they have the best of the best in their, you know, in their like in their sphere, and they're not you know, they're not focusing on it. And I also think that the artists, you guys are such a cool community. I hope that hearing each other talk gives you insight into how, you know, you guys work because I think it's a very private process that, you
Mm.
know, you might not be able to bring up in polite conversation, but if you have a journalist asking the questions, well then, you know, it's, you know, easier to answer. And so that's my thought. And I've I've it really makes me happy when I hear from artists that they say, oh, I actually listen to your stuff when I'm painting, you know. And I'm like, you know, just to get inspiration. And I'm like, uh what, there you go. That's that's enough for me to keep going. And I don't ever want to stop because Magic doesn't stop making incredible artists and finding incredible artists. So until Magic art sucks, I am going to continue to talk to as many artists as I can. And that's why I do it.
That's really cool. Thanks for explaining.
Yeah, and thank you for asking. Um, it's I love to talk to people. I love people who are excellent at things, and I mean, you know, and I love a good celebrity. Like I love talking to celebrities. I do that. I mean, I do that too. I'm very good at getting people on the line. So I figured artists. I've never really done that, and you guys are super sweet. It's a lot harder to get like Tori Amos or Lewis Black on the line, but you know, I've done it. But like, you know, you guys are just like, I'm raring to go, except for there's been a few people who were like, you know, they're like, I'm sorry, I don't do interviews. And I'm like, oh, why would you? I mean, you're just so enigmatic, but I'm not bitter. I've been actually turned down by I think four out of like the hundreds that I have. And,
Mm.
you know, and I don't hold it against them. I don't hold it against them at all. I totally love them. They're so awesome. And, you know, would never ever say anything. But if you see me at a party and you want to know their names, I'll totally say it. Because you know, I hold a grudge. What can I say? But most of y'all have been amazing and so honest, and it's really cool because you guys are the best, and yet you're so candid about your your excellence. And there's a lot of gatekeeping in the entertainment industry where they people don't want to give out the things that they have used for their own personal success. I think it's out of fear that people are going to also use that. And but with you, with artists, you guys are really open about sharing, and as a result, your community is so tight. You guys look out for each other and support one another, and I like that. It's really cool.
Well, thanks for explaining that.
No problem. And is any other questions? I'll field them. Any other questions? I am a Libra, and I do have IBS, and my favorite color is purple. And I mean, that's about it. Other than that, I don't really have anything else going. I mean, like I sleep. and talk.
No, yeah, I was just really interested in what motivated you to do these interviews because I did watch a lot of them, and I felt like there was some sort of like deeper motivation behind why you were talking to all of these artists. So I was just curious.
I mean, I think it's because, you know, I am an artist. I'm just a different. I write, I do photography, I play music, but I understanding the world of how the traditional artists, I guess I should, are the illustrating. I feel like it helps me get a better understanding of art in general and a
Mm.
new appreciation of it. And I also like to just sound smarter at parties. And
Yeah.
you guys are really smart, but it's a really cool thing to talk to all y'all. So it's just that's I guess it's I'm sorry it's not deeper than that. I'm just
Oh
fascinated by
no, no.
fascinated
That's
by excellence, you know?
Yeah, no, no, that totally makes sense. Yeah, the what you said about being inspired by like other types of art than what you do, like that's something really interesting to me too. Like one time, well, recently I was like listening to a song, and it was
Which
one of those
song?
songs I don't remember. It might have been a Sabrina Carpenter song or something.
Okay.
It was some newer song from some newer artist that's like really popular.
Nothing wrong with
Um,
that.
but it really itched my brain. Like I was like, oh, this is a good song. Like this is like sticking in my head. Like
Hmm.
really like this. So then I was like, I wonder why this song itches my brain. Like what sort of cognitive process is going on that makes this song stick in my head so much. So then
Yep.
I started researching it and I found like some different theories about why. And then I was like, I wonder if this can apply to art.
Hmm.
And I started thinking about it from that perspective. And then I started looking at some of Sargent's work. And I was like, oh, wait, there's a through line here. Like, yeah, one of the things they talked about was like beat skipping, where
Uh-huh.
um, a song will like leave you in anticipation,
Right.
but it won't. So your brain fills in the rest, which is why it like gives you that feeling of like real interest and intrigue and wanting to keep sticking to it.
Hmm.
And then like Sargent and his paintings, like a lot of shadow passages he doesn't render at all. And in a way, that's visual beat skipping.
Right.
And I
Right.
was like,
Exactly.
oh,
Exactly.
this is like, so yeah, I think it's really cool. Like, there's so much you can take from just everything. I've always seen like all pursuits of creativity, um, even like scientific pursuits, because I think like scientific intuition, like coming up with theories and hypotheses for things, is
Yeah.
also very creative.
Oh, definitely. It's
And
just something that I don't have the ability to do. But I mean, yeah, like if you've heard Neil deGrasse Tyson talk, he's total artist speak, Like he's just, but yeah, I agree with you. There is an element of creativity that has to be present if you're going to think about mathematical, equations and scientific theory. I mean, it, it's you're right, and there is, and I can say for sure, I can tell you by like actual experience. I know a lot of musicians. One of my favorite musicians, her name is Donna Lewis, and you probably have heard that song "I Love You Always Forever." It was a really big song for, I love you always forever. I'm sure you've heard it. If you haven't heard it, you've
maybe,
you have heard it because it was it's holds the world record for longest running number 2 hit of all time. She lost out to the Macarena. She's not happy about that. Um, but she went to school for music, and there are things that they teach that will keep a listener involved, like a like certain beats, like the song "Straight Up" by Paula Abdul. When you ask people try to do the drum beat for that song, people can't do it, and the reason why is because the actual beat to the song is a 7/14 rhythm, which goes
oh,
so that's the actual beat of the song, and that's what makes people want to listen to it again and again and again,
yeah,
because they can't figure out what it is that's making this this thing happen. So there are things that you can do that can, I don't want to say trick, but that can engage the mind. And I'm sure that there's things in art that happen with that. I just think maybe people like you would be able to put it into, put it into a way that can be, educational, because a lot of artists, maybe they don't even know necessarily, they could be doing it instinctually, and you see it and they go, oh yeah, but I do that. But you know what I mean? Like transcribing talent into analytical discussion is a talent itself. So I mean, if that's how your brain works, man, uh you should totally put it to, use it. It's something that I think would be very uh profitable and interesting. I know all the
Mm.
muckety muck educational people would love that, because they love like any book that makes them sound smart that they can talk about at parties. Oh, they would love that, Like, did you know? And they would claim that, it was they thought it up, They read your book and they're like, "Oh, I just read the most fascinating thing today. I won't tell you the name of the author, but like it they'll fill it in." But yeah, muckety mucks would love that stuff. I for sure. And it would be useful for young people because I do teaching as my day job, and I I would I would yak at them about this stuff. Like, listen, punks, I'm gonna teach you a thing about theory. And I talk to these artists. They know more than you, so you know.
I will say, even though I'm so theoretical, like I do see it as just my own approach. Like I definitely think there's
Right.
so many different approaches, and something that I struggle with, like, because like I have done some teaching stuff in the past, like
Hmm.
mentoring or helping people with their work, and something that I struggle with is that I don't want to like pigeonhole someone into a thought process that doesn't work for them. I really appreciate teaching that's like tailored to the student. So, so something I'm sometimes worried about when I talk about this stuff is making it sound like it's dogmatic, like this is the only way. And like I definitely want to make it like really clear that I don't, that's not how I think about things. Like I think art is very personalized and very individualistic for each person that's making it. So like I think that's another like thing about it that makes it really hard is like how do you like share these ideas but also like not force them down people and make them feel like it's the only way, because there's
Well,
some art books I've read where like they really made me feel like it was the only way, and I was like, I'm not sure, like this kind of makes me
well,
feel like art
let's
is so nebulous.
But okay, so my first question would be, these art books that these people wrote, I wonder how many of them actually have successful careers as working artists, if you know what I'm saying. Like,
Mm,
a lot of times, I hate, I don't want to be negative, but there are some people where, those who can't do teach, and they get dogmatic. But like the person who was your mentor, you spoke so highly of them, they gave you a way to understand art that you clearly didn't take as dogmatic. So
that's
maybe
true.
you ask them, hey, how do you convey this to a impressionable mind without sounding like you're trying to box them in? But also too, I've always said this, like, if a person's worried about being an asshole, then they're not an asshole. So if you are worried about being dogmatic, you probably are not dogmatic, because a dogmatic person doesn't worry about that. A dogmatic person just is. But I guess the best way to do it is just say, hey, listen, this isn't this isn't scripture. This is how I do it. And if it's useful for you, give it a shot. And if
Mm,
not, just, you can ignore me, it's no problem. But I think that you have enough emotional sensitivity and open-mindedness that, along with an editor, because that's what editors are for, to help you, say, hey, make this clear, or that's editing. I think you're worried about the editing aspect of it more than anything, which that's where all of it comes together. Really, the whole point is I'd say write it out to yourself in a, like, almost like a journal form, like just vomit it out, have it written down, so you have the back catalog to look at, and then you can read back. Another rule I use as a writer is read what you write out loud to yourself. It is the best way to catch mistakes. You'll read things and you'll go, I just used a word twice and I didn't even realize it. It's a great way to self-edit. And then
mm.
you go back to it, you refine it, and then you'll know if it's something that you want to continue doing. And, uh, you know, but just by the way you speak, you have a very interesting and very unique uh way of conveying it that I think is both grounded and creative, and I see it as a a market that needs to be filled because nobody's teaching the young people this kind of stuff at all. I mean,
Oh,
like
well, thank you.
they're
Uh,
not. And these kids, these young artists, I mean, it is the world they've inherited. It is god awful. Like, I mean, I watched in my generation. I watched CD stores close. I watched bookstores close. I watched, everything that I loved was disappearing because everything in the arts was just considered, you don't need art. And I'm like, yeah, that's not true because we've been doing it since we were cave people. So I'd imagine it's necessary because we need a way to convey emotion. And let's face it, working at a cash register might not fulfill those needs. So uh you could be a beacon, you know what I'm saying?
oh, well, thank you.
Use your
Yeah,
success,
and I feel like the interesting thing, because I'm also super into art history.
which needs
I
to be
like
taught. It needs to
it's
be taught.
really interesting. I like to learn about it because it's the stories of not just art but people and
Yeah.
the world. And I'm really, really interested in that kind of stuff. Um, and I feel like even today, like I think I think some spaces may kind of not necessarily that like art is solved, but I feel like the way that some art has gone, like the art world, uh, in like academic spaces, sometimes it feels like the focus is more on like critical thought of like philosophy,
Hmm.
and there's not
Hmm.
as much focus on technicality anymore. But
Which is crazy.
the more that I learn about technicality, the more I'm like, I feel like technicality isn't as solved as what what maybe it's more commonly thought it is. I think there's much more to discover in terms of technical art and how humans perceive than a lot of like academic sources for art put out there. And not to say that the philosophical pursuit is wrong. I think that's really valuable. Like
But it's
the critical
also
thought is good and
but
interesting.
it's also basically glorified opinion pieces. You know what I mean? Like I can read someone's interpretation of a painting and it can be brilliant, but how is that going to teach me how to create? And I think if you're questioning that the industry or that it's not being something that's being answered, then there you have it. You can't be the only one asking that question.
Mm.
You're not the only artist. So I don't know, maybe talk to your contemporaries because you got a gangbuster bunch of contemporaries that you work with. I mean, isn't it crazy to think also, right, that your contemporaries are all of these badass artists? Like you are now a coworker with these people, which is, I mean, you got to pat yourself on the back. But yeah, go up to them and be like, "Hey, what are your thoughts on it?" I'm sure you'll get to the base of it, and also you'll have these people who have, these incredible careers giving you, nuggets of information that you could easily put into a palatable form. Like there's
Mm.
this writer Aaron Mahnke who does this book called Cabinet of Curiosities where he does these little short vignettes about like these crazy weird stories, and they're wonderful little like mini history lessons that are just sort of dosed in. You could do something like that along the lines of, with art. I mean, you could keep it as what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say mainstream, but you could keep it as mass pleasing as you wanted to, or as technical as you wanted to. But, I feel like if you've been thinking that it needs to be filled, then it probably does, because
Mm.
academia can be really one-sided with those types of things.
Mm. I think it's interesting too, like the idea of combining like modern research into art as well. Something that I've been thinking about a lot recently. I won't go like super deep into it,
I don't care.
I'm still thinking about it, and I don't like have
Oh,
it.
I mean, I won't repeat this. If we're just, by the way, the interviews ended like, like none of this is being used. We're just shooting the shit now. So,
You can use it if you want to. It's totally
oh, I mean, I would love, I would, maybe I'll do it as a B-side I'll do like the interview and then I'll be like, surprise part two, because sometimes it happens, you know? I do find the conversation interesting. I just wanted to make sure that you were not, uh, that you like that if any of this, like if you were not, if you wanted it for public consumption. So,
mm.
yeah. But I mean, yeah, I'm a journalist. I will use anything I can. I mean, with permission, I'm not a scumbag journalist, which has held me back, professionally. I'd be so much more successful if I just knifed people in the back, but damn conscience, just what can I say?
um,
But as you were saying,
but yeah, something I've been thinking about is like the idea of logarithms and visual perception. Um, I so there's this idea that like human perception in general is logarithmic in nature. So like various stimulus that are received by the brain visually or auditorily um, uh, increase in intensity on a logarithmic scale.
now logarithmic, explain that to dum dum talk. Like,
Uh, it's like it's one of those graphs that does this.
okay, okay, okay,
Well,
yeah,
logarithmic is the inverse, but it's basically like one of the graphs that does this. Like
right on, okay,
it starts like gradual and then it goes really fast up.
all right.
Um, so like I don't know. I feel like an example to explain it would be like if you're listening to a sound, the
I
very quietest sound will be very quiet,
mhm.
but then the loudest sound will be like extremely loud. I think it is logarithmic for sound though,
I have
if I remember.
synesthesia personally, so when I listen to music, I see shapes and colors. So I totally get that. Like there's a very clear rise and fall for me with music. Like certain things, especially electronic music, not while I'm driving. Mm-mm. Nope, can't do it. There's a movie going on in my head, so where I should say it's a lot of shapes and patterns and colors. And I didn't realize until college that that wasn't how everybody listened to music. I would stay up until like 5 in the morning watching music. And I, to this day, I'm like, you can't put music on in front of me because I'm like, huh. It's just, and, so that makes sense though, because you can see, I can tell you that there is that sort of shape that goes on with it.
Hmm. It's interesting because like in my own work, like something I'm really interested in is like value structure and recreating light. Um, and I really for a very long time have like sought some sort of like universal understanding of how value works. And I thought that I kind of figured it out for a while, but then I learned about this logarithmic thing, and I started looking at things a little differently. And it kind of hit me like I knew that light was perceived logarithmically. So like when you have a sphere, like a drawing of a sphere, and you have
Mm-hmm.
like the light and shadow, and it groups into two shapes,
Right.
and there's like a very small subtle tone for the half tone.
Huh.
Like that's
Yeah.
because of logarithmic perception. It's not a gradual or it's not a linear transition of values. It's grouped into one light, one shadow, small halftone band. Um, but I knew that before. But then what I didn't realize was maybe like local value, local shape of individual objects as they relate to each other in a scene are also logarithmic. So like if you have a white like oil container, like a tanker truck in a field,
Mhm.
like and it's like I don't know, dawn, the value of the white on the tanker truck comparatively to the value that you perceive on the grass below it, comparatively to like the value that you see on a black object.
Mhm.
Like black object will be here, grass will be here, tanker truck will be here on the value scale. So it's like it was really interesting to me to start thinking about like visual perception relationships between value grouping as a logarithmic function.
You know what would
Yeah.
be cool is if you ever, if you ever get a chance to maybe find out the type of scientists who study this kind of stuff? Because I'm sure that there's a fields of science that focus on how humans perceive light and that kind of stuff. I bet they would have a lot of information that would be able to confirm or, help, you know, help you bring not bring it not not to say it isn't authentic, but like if you have science people saying, well, this is true, because it sounds like what you're saying, you sound like you're talking about almost like a scientific equation. And I mean, science is pretty, like it's the universal language, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if you're thinking about that, I mean, there's got to be somebody out there that's sort of like the yin to your yang, that's like super duper smart in science, but it wants to get that artistic take. Because science people are love artists. I mean, the creative people. When you're a scientist, you're very they're very sciencey. So being around people who are artists are it's very fun for them because you know like you could probably ask around, you know, say like look at different programs of science and say, hey, I'm this established artist. I work with Magic Gathering. I mean, that'll get you in the door. And then, say, hey, I'm looking to, maybe write say a research paper on something, because that's how we did it in grad school. You put together a research paper, you keep it focused on one particular, idea, and you really go deep. You get your citations in there, and then you go and you submit it to they have these different associations where you are applying, and if you get accepted, you get up and you read it in front of other academics. And that's how you find people who say, hey, I think there might be a book in this. Like people love that whole grad school stuff. There's a whole, I've presented at some of them, and you know there's there are people out there that you could probably find that are simpatico. I think you kind of have to be a bit of a journalist yourself, you know what I'm saying? Like
Mm.
you have to ask the questions and trust that what you're thinking is not, you know, just because you haven't discussed it with someone else doesn't mean other people haven't been asking that question too. Because I a lot of people sometimes are just, nervous to ask a question out of fear of being misunderstood or being laughed at. And uh, you know, if you got the ability to convey it, I'd say hit your teacher up, get a good conversation, be like, tell me who, how can we, yeah, how can I convey this? Because you conveyed it to me. So, well, that I implemented it in my career without feeling like I was brainwashed. And maybe he can give you, the breakdown. And because that's what teaching is. It's just handing down information on how to understand our ridiculously complex brains. So I'm vote yes on that. I mean, I'd read the book. I I would,
Well,
because
thanks.
I mean, I can't do the art, but I love reading about the people who can. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Like, and the art history thing, big fan of that, because you know what? People want to know the stories behind the people like Rembrandt. He's an interesting guy. There's stuff to be said about him. There's always another book that can be written about Rembrandt. You know what I'm saying? So, but you can't be too specified with like the rock and roll like of art. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing about him that can be too nuanced. You can do as deep of a dive as you want to into artists like that. And like Rockwell, like there's never enough studies about those people. uh
Mm.
and it'll get lost to time too if other people with your skill, if you don't convey the information. uh like I'm Schmucky the Clown, I can't really, like, I can't do it. I'll be like, art is really really weird and cool, if you know what I'm saying, man. So I mean, I don't know. Hope I don't sound too, I hope I don't sound like too like, you must do this, but
No, no, no. I appreciate it.
it sounds cool. And it's really honestly something I've not heard people put into words, but but I've interviewed enough artists to hear what you're saying is just a much more technical and tight like way of putting things that I've heard other artists say in like their own language, if that makes any sense.
Mm,
Like they're saying the same things, it's just they speak in poetry, whereas you speak in, academic, English, which it's great for teaching. So
mm. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
yeah, I appreciate you talking to me about it because now I get, again, like I said, I get to go and say, I talked to this guy about this kind of stuff, and it's good stuff. And if you don't mind, yeah, I might actually use this. I might have to edit because I'm pretty sure I said some fucked up shit. Because behind the scenes, I'm not as obviously classy as I am on camera. But thank you so much, and I'm sure we'll talk again. And hopefully, I'll run into you at some conventions and see you there. But I definitely support your work. It's really cool. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you too. I appreciate it. It was fun.
Awesome. Well,
And
have a great afternoon, and hopefully, I didn't talk your ear off.
no, you too. And also before we go, um, do you mind maybe sending me a rough cut of what
Oh
you
yeah, not a
decide
problem.
to post before we
Oh
post?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I don't mind. Like,
That'd be
trust
that'd be
me.
helpful. Then I can just go through it and see if there's anything that like I
Oh,
accidentally said or that I didn't want to say.
not a problem. But I'll tell you right now, you didn't say anything that was like, you sounded great. I would really.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, you can have access to it. I'll post it on a Google Drive and just give you the password.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Talk to you later.
All right, see ya.
All right,
Bye.
bye.